The 9th of October 1921, Volume 13. In the Last Supper, Jesus gave Louisa the place of honour between himself and John. He gave himself as food to all in order to receive food from all. The will of man is that which makes him more like his Creator. The human will is the depository of all the works of man. I was thinking about the act in which Jesus had the Last Supper with his disciples, and my lovable Jesus told me in my interior, "My daughter, while I was having supper with my disciples, I was surrounded not only by them, but by the whole human family. I had all creatures near me, one by one. I knew them all, and I called them by name. I also called you, and I gave you the place of honour between me and John, constituting you the little secretary of my will. And as I divided the lamb in offering it to my apostles, I gave it to all and to each one. That lamb, bled dry, roasted, cut to pieces, spoke about me. It was the symbol of my life and of how I was to reduce myself for love of all. And I wanted to give it to all as delicious food, which represented my passion, because everything I did, said, and suffered was converted by my love into food for man. But do you know why I called everyone and gave the lamb to all? Because I too wanted food from them. I wanted everything they would do to be food for me. I wanted the food of their love, of their works, of their words, of everything. And I, my love, how can it be that our works become food for you? And Jesus, it is not on bread alone that one can live, but on everything to which my will gives virtue of making one live. If bread nourishes man, it is because I want it so. Now, whatever the creature disposes with her will to make of her work, that is the form which it assumes. If with her work she wants to form food for me, she forms food for me. If love, she gives me love. If reparation, she forms reparation. And if in her will she wants to offend me, she makes of her work the knife to wound me, and maybe even to kill me." Then he added, "The will of man is that which makes him more like his Creator. In the human will, I placed part of my immensity and of my power, and giving it the place of honour, I constituted it queen of the whole of man and depository of all of his works. Just as creatures have chests in which they keep their things to maintain them secured, the soul has her will in which to keep and secure all that she thinks, says, and does. Not even one thought will be lost. What she cannot do with her eyes, with her mouth, with her works, she can do with her will. In one instant, she can will 1,000 goods and 1,000 evils. The will makes her thought fly up to heaven, to the farthest places, and deep into the abysses. She might be prevented from working, from seeing, from speaking, but she can do all this in her will. Whatever she does and wants forms an act which remains deposited in her own will. Oh, how the will can be expanded! How much good and how much evil can it not contain? This is why, among all things, I want the will of man, because if I have this, I have everything. The fortress is conquered." End of the reading.
The 10th of October 1922, Volume 14. The Human Will Acting in the Divine. Continuing in my usual state, My always lovable Jesus came all tenderness, clasped me in his arms, kissed me, and said to me, who knows how many times, "My daughter, the daughter of my will, how dear you are to me. Listen, as your will enters into mine, it empties itself of you, and mine enters, acting in you. And as mine acts, yours receives the strength of the creative power and remains acting in me. And since I am one single point containing everything, embracing everything, doing everything, I see your will acting in me with my own creative power, wanting to give me everything and repay me for all. And to my highest contentment, I see it before me from the very first instant in which I delivered the whole creation. Leaving all behind, it comes forward as if you were the first one to be created by me, in whom no splitting of wills existed between me and you, just as I would have wanted the first man to be. And it gives me honour, glory, love, as if creation had not gone out of my will. What taste, what contentment I feel. You cannot understand it. The order of creation is given back to me. The harmonies, the joys alternate together. I see this human will acting in me in the light of the sun, upon the waves of the sea, in the flickering of the stars, in everything. And it gives me the glory of all the goods which these created things give to man. What happiness! It resembles me in everything, with this difference. I am one single point, and you, little by little, as you keep operating, thinking, speaking, loving in my will, take more space and form divine births. End of the reading.
The 9th of October 1926, Volume 20. The kingdom of the will of God is like a new creation. Delight of Jesus in hearing one speak about his will. I was doing my round in the Supreme Volition according to my usual way, and my sweet Jesus showed a globe of light within my interior. And as I repeated my acts in the divine fiat, it became larger, and the rays that came out of it became longer. And my always beloved Jesus told me, "My daughter, the more often you go around in my will in order to repeat your acts, the larger the sphere of this globe of light becomes, and the more power of light it possesses, the more its rays can extend that must illuminate the kingdom of the eternal fiat. Your acts, fused, dissolved in my will form the special sun that must illuminate a kingdom so holy. This sun will possess the creative power, and as it extends its rays, it will leave the mark of its sanctity, of goodness, of light, of beauty, and of divine likeness. Those who will let themselves be illuminated by its light will feel the power of a new continuous creation of joy, of contentments, and of goods without end. Therefore, as my will dominates all the acts of those who live in it, the kingdom of my will be a continuous creation. So the creature will remain under a new continuous act of this supreme volition that will keep her so absorbed as to leave no field of action to her own self. This is why I love so much that the kingdom of my will be known, for the great good that creatures will receive, and for the free field of action it will have. In fact, the supreme will is now hindered by their own self. But when it becomes known, its rays, vivifying, penetrating, and full of vivid light, will eclipse the human will, that will be dazzled by its refulgent light, and in seeing the great good that comes to it, it will give freedom of action to my will, giving it total dominion. So in this kingdom, a new era, a new continuous creation will begin for my will. It will put out everything that it had established to give to creatures, had they always done its will, and that it had to keep within itself for many centuries, as though in deposit, to then release them for the good of the children of its kingdom. After this, I continued to pray. While I was praying, I saw that my highest good, Jesus, was coming out in a great hurry from the depth of my interior, pushing a bundle of light that was above him and kept him as though eclipsed under it, inside of me, preventing me from seeing him. So pushing it hurriedly, he came out, and I said to him, "My Jesus, what is it that you're in such a hurry? Is it perhaps something that interests you very much?" And Jesus, "Certainly, my daughter, it is indeed the thing that interests me the most. You know, even from within you, I heard the Father, who took our writings with him, speak about my will to those who surrounded him with so much love that I felt wounded deep into my heart. So I wanted to come out of you in order to listen to him. Those are my own words that I have spoken about my will, that resound to my hearing. I hear my own echo, and therefore I want to take all the delight in listening to him, and I want to let you take it as well, as a reward for the sacrifices you have made." At that moment, I saw a ray of light coming out of Jesus that extended so much as to reach the place where the Reverend Father was, and investing him, it made him speak, and Jesus was all consoled in hearing him speak about his adorable will. End of the reading.
22, Volume 31. God created man in an ecstasy of love. Creation, garment of man. The sweet sound of the little bell. Ecstasies in turn of the Creator and of the creature. Prodigy of the conception of the Virgin. My abandonment in the fiat continues, and however more abandoned in it I am, so much more I feel its strength that fortifies me, its life that animates me, its light that comforts me, illuminates me, and making itself revealer, reveals to me he in whose arms I am all abandoned, and with powerful attraction makes me go around in his works. He loves and wants that his little daughter be spectator of what he has done for love of creatures. So while I was going around, my divine and sovereign Jesus, stopping me in the act of the creation of man, told me, "My daughter, what sweet memory is the creation of man. He was created in an ecstasy of our love. So much was our love that we remain enraptured before our own work that we put forth to the light. The beauty with which we had invested him enraptured us. The sanctity with which we had filled him enraptured us. The form, the harmony with which we had formed him enraptured us. His prerogatives, each quality of his, was an ecstasy of love that we felt, and it enraptured us to love him. So our love remained shaken, overcome, and putting us in ecstasy, made arise in us the operating and immortal love toward man. And in this ecstasy of love, enraptured as we were, nothing bothered us. We placed no limits. We displayed so much in loving him and enriching him with all goods that no void remained. So his love would be full for us, and so be able to enrapture us to love him continuously. Therefore, just remembering how man was created repeats our loving ecstasies to him. Now, one who goes around in our will, as she finds our works that were prepared in order to then create man, she sounds a little bell to call all creatures to recognize this love of God toward man. And its sweet sound calls our attention. Our love reawakens and makes arise again in us our ecstasies of love toward her. Ecstasies mean total repouring toward whom one loves, And one who comes into our will has the strength to make us undergo our ecstasy of love, so that we pour ourselves out again in her. And with our power, we put the creature into ecstasies for us, so that nothing remains for her and everything repours into our supreme being. A mutual repouring occurs, the one into the other, because there is nothing that pleases us more than seeing the creature in that same will in which she was created. To contemplate our works, know them, and feel the pulsations of our love that each created thing possesses was the garment that we prepared and gave to man in creating so many things and the whole of creation. Now, who receives the life of the good the created things contain? One who makes use of this garment so splendid, and with right knows them. Knowing them, she finds our palpitating love, our operating will, and she loves them and loves in them that supreme being who loves her so much. Therefore, be attentive and constant in going around in our works, so that we give each one a hand in loving each other. Take turns placing ourselves in ecstasy, and with utility you will make use of the great garment that with so much love your Creator has given you. After this, my little mind wandered in the acts done by the divine will, and passing from one to another, I arrived at the conception of the Most Holy Virgin. Oh, the heavens remained mute before this completed act of the divine will. The angels seemed stammering, for however much they say, it seems that they do not know how to say everything about this prodigy so great. Ah, only God can speak of it, because he is the author of the prodigy, of what was worked in this conception. And while I remained amazed, my lovable Jesus, surprising me, told me, "My daughter, the conception of the Immaculate Virgin was a new act of our will, new in the way, new in time, and new in grace. The whole of creation was renewed in her. In our all-seeingness and immensity, we called all creatures, all their good acts, present, past, and future, as if they were one alone. This conception would be formed over everything and everyone, to give the right to everyone, and give them the right not with words, but with deeds over everything. When our will does an act that must serve for the universal good of everyone, it puts no one aside, and making use of its omnipotence, it reunites everything together, creatures and their acts, except for sin, because evil cannot enter into our acts, and completes the act that it wants to do. See, all your acts also contributed. You put forth your part. Therefore, by right, you are her daughter, and the Virgin Queen with right is your mamma. But do you know why we had this way of bringing this holy creature forth to the light? In order to renew the whole of creation, to love it again with new love, and to place everyone and everything in safety, as though under the wings of this creature and celestial mother. We never do our works isolated, but we always start from our one and only act, that while it is one, it unites everything and does everything as if they were one alone. This is our omnipotence, our creative strength, in one single act to do everything, to find everything, and to do good to everyone. End of the reading. There are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.